Everybody, let's do 5.1 really quick. Shouldn't be a long video at all, and probably one of the easiest sections you'll ever do. So in chapter 5, we're going to start doing... Why does it do that? I'm going to start doing polynomials and polynomial functions. Whether you realize it or not, you've dealt with polynomials before. Polynomials can be defined as either a monomial or a sum of monomials. Now, feel free to pause the video and write this down. I'm not going to give this much credibility, or maybe, I don't know if that's the right word. I'm not going to give this that much attention, because this is way uglier than it needs to be. But this is like a technical textbook definition of a polynomial function, which you've dealt with polynomials so many times without even realizing it. Now we just put it in an equation with a y variable, and it's a function, right? Functions are things that involve both x and y, and then so this p of x thing, when it says p of x equals, it really just means y equals, and then all this stuff with like these x variables with different power. Again, this is way uglier than it needs to be. A couple other like vocabulary words that you should be aware of. Degree. The degree of a term. What do you think the degree of a term is? Just of a term, not like the entire polynomial, but of just a term. Well, that would be the exponent of the variable. Whatever the power is, whatever the exponent is, that's the degree. So it's like another word for power or exponent. And if a polynomial is in standard form, the terms, because there could be a lot of terms, if it's in standard form, the terms are in descending order by degree. So that makes sense, right? When you see a polynomial, you often see the highest power first, and then it kind of goes down from there, like in descending order. Here's an example of a polynomial function. See, semantics here, I know, but this part right here, the 4x cubed plus 3x squared minus 5x minus 2, this just on its own you could call a polynomial. But when you have like this y equals or p of x equals or f of x equals with it, all of a sudden now it's a polynomial function. But notice how this is in descending order. The degree of this term is 3. The degree of this term is 2. What's the degree of this term? What's the exponent of the variable? Well, wouldn't it be 1? Well, okay, if you thought that was easy, what about the degree of this term? What is the exponent? What's the power of the variable here? Now, you don't need to write this down, but in a way, doesn't this say x to the 0? Sorry, that is ugly. But, in a way, that's x to the 0. So my point is, the degree of this term is technically 0. Now, let's get that out of there. Now, the degree of an entire polynomial, before you go guessing and getting yourself all mixed up, I'll just tell you. The degree of the entire polynomial is the greatest degree amongst its terms, amongst its monomial terms. So the degree of this entire polynomial function is 3, because you just go with the highest one. And again, pause as needed so you can write stuff down. Now we're just going to fill out this table. So I got some other vocabulary words that you probably actually recognize. So a lot of these vocabulary words, it's a lot of vocabulary, but a lot of it you've probably heard before. So take a look at all of these polynomial examples. Alright? First, let's fill out like the degree. What's the degree of this? What's the degree of x plus 4? What's the degree of 4x squared? And then so on and so forth. So looking at all these, the degree of this would be 0, because if this is like x to the 0 technically. And the invisible power is 1. The degree of this entire polynomial is 2. The degree of this whole polynomial is 3. You just go with the highest one. And then therefore, this one's 4. Now, here's some vocabulary, right? You can, I guess the word of the day here is classify. We can classify a polynomial by its degree. Like we can give it a certain descriptor word, just based on what degree it is. And so this is like some of the vocabulary I was talking about. If the degree is 0, we call that constant. I mean, isn't 5 constantly 5? I mean, it makes sense, right? If this was like a 5x, then depending on what x was, it could change from thing to thing. But if it's just 5, like if the power on your invisible variable is like 0, then it's constantly 5. So 5 is a constant. If the degree is 1, we use the word linear. Like a linear equation when the powers are 1. You should also recognize this word, I hope. When the power is 2, what's the word? Starts with a Q and ends with quadratic. Remember all those quadratic equations we were solving and graphing and whatever? If the power is 3, the degree, whatever, we say cubic. This is a cubic polynomial. And if the power is 4, we say quartic. And if the degree is 5, we can say quintic. And this can keep going, I guess. This is like a Latin thing or something. It keeps going, like how like in geometry, you got like pentagon and then like septagon and whatever, right? Octagon and all that kind of stuff. Like we could keep going with like your classic prefixes for like 6, 7, 8, whatever. Octic for 8, I don't know, but I'm not, whatever. I'm not. We're only going to go so far with this. Now, you can also classify polynomials by the number of terms. How many terms are here? Well, there's just one. There's just one term. And here, there's 2 terms. I hope you have a decent background with, identifying how many terms you're looking at, like in a polynomial. So here, once again, 4x squared, there's only one term. Okay? Remember, terms are separated by pluses and minuses. So in this blue boy right here, there are 3 terms. You have 6x cubed, you have the negative 2x squared, and you have the positive x, the x. So here we have 2 terms, the positive 2x to the 4th and the positive 5x squared. And once again, more vocabulary, but again, these are more words you should feel are familiar. If you only have one term, we call this polynomial a monomial, like mono, mono. Mono means one. I don't know if it's Latin or whatever, I don't know. But it's your classic prefix for one. So monomial. If there are 2 terms, we can call that a binomial, like bicycle, like how many wheels are on a bicycle? 2. So 2 is binomial. Once again, 1 is monomial. Already covered that down here. 2 is a binomial. All right, well, 3 wheels on a what? Tricycle. So this would be a trinomial. Okay, they're all polynomials, but these words are a little bit more specific. It's kind of like how all apples are fruit, right? But not all fruit are apples. You know what I mean? All monomials are polynomials. All trinomials are polynomials, but not all polynomials are trinomials. And if we went to like 4 terms, there's not really a special word, a specific word. You would just say polynomial of 4 terms. Okay. So in fact, you know, maybe I can. And I don't know. Let me just pick. Or what other color didn't I use yet? Nope, don't like it. Don't like it. Let's just use gray, I guess. Like, let's say there was 4 terms. Okay. I mean, you would just say polynomial of 4 terms. Okay, because there's no special word. You know what I mean? I don't know. Okay. And look, all you're really going to be doing in this really easy homework assignment is classifying. You know, classifying a polynomial by its degree and number of terms. So the first thing was to write each polynomial in standard form. Remember, standard form just means simplify, I guess, and also put things in descending order. Like right here, the term that has the highest power needs to go first. Just like here in the purple one, the term with the highest power should be written first if it's truly in standard form. And this one, not only would we make sure that this term goes first, but the 3 and the positive 10 can be combined, okay? And you know, that's what simplified was the word I used. And but the main thing, right? The biggest thing I'm emphasizing is these vocabulary words. So how would we describe this? How would we classify it? By the degree of 4 and how there are 3 terms. Remember those special words from this chart? We would say it's a quartic trinomial. This is by degree. This is by the number of terms. So once again, this one would also be a trinomial, but since the power is 3, we say cubic. And this one only has 2 terms, so it's a binomial, and the power of 2 means what? Quadratic. And that's all you're doing in this lesson. A very, very easy lesson. Just a lot of easy vocabulary that you've probably already seen before. Because this stuff I'm trimming and I'm cutting from this year. Okay? Really, and we've done this on Desmos, I believe, on some previous assignments. I think. Yeah, at least on the 4-5 revisited. But what this was going to be about was like describing this end behavior just by looking at a graph, but don't worry about it, okay? That's it.